Welcome to the Max 6 Community Connections radio show and podcast with your host, Jennifer Burwell and Kyle McIntosh. Max 6 builds better communities where people and businesses thrive. We are broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona, and will be shining a light on the incredible stories of businesses we work with and how they are serving our broader community. And here is this week's Community Connection. On today's show, we're talking with Gustavo Ceballos and Mauro Rodriguez, the president and vice president of Geoz Global. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And I guess first, tell me a little bit about yourselves. Where'd you grow up? How'd you get from there to where you're sitting today?
So I'm originally from Nogales, Mexico, border city with Arizona, which was separated during the sale of Mexico to the U.S. I went to school in San Francisco in the 80s. And from there, I started working in the U.S., mainly in L.A. I started in the industry with a very important company called Expeditors. And I'm proud of saying because they're a good school. And I was there for 8 years. And then I moved on to another company, a Japanese company, to offer me a work with a Mexican major computer company, IBM, doing the same thing, international logistics, transportation, air, ocean. And I was doing that out of LA, but I had to travel to Guadalajara a lot. And then Expeditors rehired me, sent me back to Nogales. I went to LA. Well, I wanted to get out of the border, but they sent me back to Nogales. And we were working with a major manufacturer of vehicles, big plant. We were doing a lot of work. It was about 175 people I was in charge of. Some say I lost like 3 years of my life in that job because we were working from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. So it was hectic.
That's typically good, normal for this industry. Right?
Exactly. And after that time, I wanted to move out of Nogales. It was too small. I think they have a Walmart and a Starbucks. That's all I have. And I moved up to Phoenix in 2012. And I've been working with a few companies here. And then we decided to open up a shop in June of this year. It's been a dream come true because we've been thinking about it for a long time.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Very cool. What about yourself?
As for me, I actually grew up and raised, you could say, in California, Los Angeles. I started in this industry back in 94. I was still in high school, as a matter of fact, when I first started. I was doing evening shifts, and this was with Japan Airlines, doing the co-loading of the 747 freighter that they had. So I would work up to 1 a.m. and then head home, get up early in the morning, go to school. That's typically how it works, right? When in a Hispanic household, right? That you have to assist, certain things or cover yourself. And, as time kept on going, I just kept on moving up in ranks, you could say. Started with the airlines, then it went to working in the freight forwarding industry and so on to the point where we are now. This is 27 years later. So as Gustavo mentioned, his background, being in this industry over 29, close to 30 years, myself doing that, it was time. It was time to jump ship and do our own thing. I think we have a lot of knowledge, you could say, in what we do, to be capable of doing what we're doing right now.
Very cool. It's interesting. I have lots of questions. None of them are on this paper that I wrote down ahead of time.
It's okay.
So both of you spent a lot of years doing some version that led to where you are today, working a lot of hours and, starting at 2 a.m. and going to school. And what does it feel like to be here having started this now? And really, it's probably exactly what you have wanted to be building towards. What does it feel like to reflect back on where you started and all the hours and the energy that you put in to get to where you are today?
It's amazing. On my end, I would go back when I first started in the industry, and I would always question, myself, is this something that you really want to do? I would see other, freight forwarding companies dropping off freight at the airline, and I would ask, like, how did these guys, did these guys get there, right? And you have that question, and you have that desire to do something, be somebody, down the line, and it turns out that when you put something, as a vision out there and you throw it out there and you work your butt off, to get there, it happens. It happens. So it's an amazing feeling, you could say, but it's not just being in the industry and just having your own business to do this, but it's just the excitement of what we are capable of doing with our customers. What can we do differently than what our competition is doing? And that's what we look for and we strive for, and we're always asking those questions. It's not just A to Z moving freight here.
Excellent. Yeah, same. I mean, do you want me to answer?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. I mean, part of it, you're extremely happy and joyous about it, and then the things you don't think about is that you still have a boss, the bank, right? Right. The bank, and then you have multiple. It's like you're playing football, and you have 5 teams against you, right? You have the TSA, you have U.S. Customs, you have DOT regulations. You have, IATA, hazmat regulations. I mean, we're extremely regulated, but I mean, all those years, it kind of flows with us. Oh, you have a hazmat shipment. Okay. What type is it? Oh, it's flammable. Okay. So, and then you have the TCMA, the ITAR, and, you have the BIS, everything. There's all regulations involved, and you have to be very careful about not shipping parties that are denied. Like you can't send to countries that have embargoes or people that are not in the no-fly list. It's definitely a dream come true, but there's other challenges that you didn't have on your list. It's kind of like getting married and having kids, right? But it's a great, and we're really happy being here. I was talking to Mauro the other day, and to our broker, our real estate broker. We're looking for a great office that was in a clean area close to the airport. Good luck, right? But we found it. We found it. We found a great community. We were not asking for the other value added that you have as a community. The kitchen, the coffee, and the community. We weren't looking for that, but we definitely hit the jackpot.
We were blessed with that.
You found it all the same.
Yes.
Well, we're glad to have you guys, and
a great location too. Great,
right by the airport. We're
4 freeways,
right?
4 freeways, right
yeah,
there,
right
for us.
So I'm interested in you have a lot of international experience, and then what you're doing now is heavily international, I imagine. We'll get into that, but just it seems like you'd have a unique perspective on things, having exposure to other countries and other cultures, and from the work-related things, and how do I get this to show up where it needs to be with all those regulations you're talking about, but also just about how people are different or the same across the world. I'm curious kind of what you think about that, what you've seen in the world.
Well, on my perspective, being a border guy, I've always had the international mind, right? I grew up in Mexico, but all the TV was in English because we didn't have Mexican cable. It was U.S. cable. So that was our first perspective. And then we could tell we were different from other people from Mexico because we were Americanized, right? We had the international, but we were also different from the guys from Nogales, Arizona, because we were just different, So you kind of find people like in the border with Italy and Switzerland, right? Say, well, you ask somebody from Switzerland, what's the best what do you speak, right? Well, they speak, the official is German, but everybody speaks Italian, French, and it's kind of different when you're right at the border and you start learning that there's other people in the world, right? You start learning that you got to take care of everything that's important to them, because what's important to you might not be important to them. And you find out with shipping, with international transportation, you need to clear everything out, because every country has completely different regulations. There's Brazil, for instance, your invoice has to be in blue ink or your shipment gets penalized.
Wow.
It won't make it through customs if your invoice is not in blue ink. So different things.
Yeah. Just I guess having that lingo, right? We all have the same lingo when it comes to transportation, and knowing what Incoterms are. When you're in the transportation industry, you have to know what Incoterms. So that's more of the lingo of connecting any country together and understanding what applies to what. Besides that is communication. Communication on how the freight is going to be moved, what is needed ahead of time before the freight even gets there, things like that. So, it's just amazing working with other countries, to be honest with you, because every day is something new in this industry, and it doesn't get old. Like we said, we've been doing this for 20 plus years, and it doesn't get old. It's always something new, consistently.
That's how I get out of bed every morning and walking in here. So I kind of know how my day is going to go, but something's going to happen. I'm going to learn something.
Yeah.
I mean, really being around people, it's what do they value? Whether you're in the same country or different countries, and these what do they get excited about and get out of bed in the morning for? And so it's really exciting to get to learn that. And whether I agree or disagree or whatever, it's like, coa, tell me about that. I want to learn about that. You're starting a new company today. That's great. That's how can I help? I think I spent a year as a kid living in the Philippines and 4 years in Canada. So both English speaking, at least to an extent, and then there's the French and the Tagalog, but spent some time in a different place, and it's very similar and it's very different. And the very different is really just how did you grow up? What's normal around here, as well as just these human being values of like, we want what's best for each other. And it's cool to see, going to a new place and seeing these real similarities too, that, hey, we're all just trying to look out for each other, really. Exactly.
And you learn to value the culture, right? The culture, which is, I guess, if I remember from anthropology class, it's a number of different habits and customs that a group of people have. We have microcultures in the U.S. and Mexico. With me and my wife, they're whatever is green for me is not green for her, and to that extent. And we were both from Mexico, right? We've even had fights over Mexican food, right? Because my family was from the south of Mexico, and she says, "No, northern food is better." No, we wouldn't talk to each other for half a day just for Mexican food, but and it's the same culture, right? So it's very interesting how when you start writing emails, like in Japan, you're supposed to send the most important people in the structure. You have to put them in the email first. And if you don't do that, it's disrespectful, right? It's disrespectful, and then you need to learn respect with their culture. If you're not doing that, they don't care. They don't care about you. If say, oh, he doesn't care about us, we don't care about him.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, all the little changes, right?
That you have to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny. You called it customs, and I just think about how many times I've gone into different countries to clear customs. And that's where I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to take my customs back and try and just be as neutral as possible to get through here. And then I'll learn your customs. And so tell me about how you guys met a number of years ago.
Oh, my Lord. That's
an interesting story.
That's a very interesting story. this happened in 2013. I think it was the summer of 2013,
Yes.
right? I came here to Arizona because I was planning to move here. I was literally tired of living in California. So if you think traffic was bad back in 2013, and imagine how it is now, it's crazy. I was just tired of that. So, and I just wanted to do something different, something new. And I remember one day just searching, free forwarders in Arizona. I didn't care what it was, to be honest with you. I just wanted to leave. At that time, I had a 3-year-old and about to be a 1-year-old when I was trying to make that move. And first thing that came to my, to the search engine when I did that was our previous company. And at that time, Gustavo, I think he had like 6 months, 7 months in the company. So he was, also freshly new in the company. But I actually was told that the person that made the decision wasn't there at that minute, that they will give me a call back, right? But, so when you get that message, you might think, hey, they're not going to call me. I'm like, okay, all right, here's my number, blah, blah. Little behold, he calls me an hour and a half later, and we started chit-chatting and started picking my brain. And then he just told me, hey, by the way, I'm going to be in California next week. Is it okay if we, pencil in a interview? I said, yeah, sure. So I'm thinking, it's going to be at maybe 9, 10, right? 10 in the morning. No, he actually had me be at a Starbucks at 4:30 in the morning. So 4:30 in the morning, so we're looking, I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not going to say no, right? Sometimes you have to think outside the box and get uncomfortable, and think differently, right? So I ended up going to this interview at 4:30. I literally got up at 3 to make it to Anaheim from where I was living. So I show up in a suit and tie. Showed up, I think, like 30 minutes earlier, and I ended up throwing the coffee on me accidentally.
He was nervous.
I guess I was nervous. Gustavo says I was nervous, but I just dropped it on me, and I'm like, oh man, so what is he gonna think of me? But I always have that high standard, right? So he shows up, and Gustavo walks in the door, and I'm looking, like, where is this guy? It's almost time for the interview. And he walks in, and what were you wearing?
I was in shorts with the real Angry Bird shirt with the Donald Duck. I was in Disney with my kids, so I with a 4-day beard. Right, so we were just talking, interviewing. I had to say, "You Mauro?" Yeah, because he was the only guy with coffee on his
not the shirt. Food, the coffee. You see that, right?
Yeah. So we hit it off right away. We started talking, about philosophy of business, customer service, and we hit it off right away. And then he moved to Phoenix. We started working. We worked together for 7 years in the previous company, and we changed a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that I can definitely talk about here, they had an international department, and that's why they brought me in, because they didn't have enough international business. They would sell like about $5,000 a month, and we ended up, doing that amount, like 300 a month. Wow. In a few months. So it's the relationships that you have, and all the people that right? Plus, there's a lot of international companies in Nogales, Tucson, and all that. So, we hit it off right away. And one day, over a few beers, we decided that we're gonna open up our own company, and
that's the best way to make one of those decisions.
Yeah, it started with a couple of beers, and then we ended up celebrating like we already had opened it back then, right?
Oh, that's good. So, brag on your company for a little bit here. What? Tell me about Geoz and international shipping, but what it makes you different from another guy that's out there doing what you guys do.
Okay. Well, one of the things is that I think we bring the best of both worlds, that we follow procedures, right? It's always a good philosophy to follow a procedure, because if you have a procedure, you always will have the same product, right? So success in arriving, communicating wherever your freight needs to go, and but we have a very simple way of doing it, right? Because when you're been with multiple companies, you can tell. I mean, oh, this company is trying to do this, but they do it very complicated. Plus, you add some politics, and and it's easier. We have absolutely, we're against politics in our company. We're small. We have streamlined decisions. We, from when the customer asks for the quote, to the sales process, to when we do a standard operating procedure for every customer. Every customer has an assigned person. So you have a very important principle in logistics, which is one point of contact, right? So if you're communicating with different people, different styles, and say, oh, well, Roger told me the truck was going to arrive there, and oh, yeah, but I asked Jenny, and then I asked, so it gets all convoluted. So it's one point of contact, and we make it very, very simple, and we have a system that guides us through all that, an electronic system, and we provide updates, GPS for trucks, planes, ships to our customers, and we're pretty proud of our system, because everybody, a couple of the guys that work for us work for the previous company, so we kind of feel they have the same philosophy, and we try to invite people to the same philosophy, and we joke around because it's a very stressful industry, and you have to have a sense of humor, otherwise you won't make it.
Yeah.
You won't make it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have these customers, right? That, sometimes they want to be held by the hand, right? And they want to be coached on how to do certain things. Again, you have, these small mom and pop companies that are getting started the same way we are, right? That don't understand the procedures for imports, exports. They don't understand the regulations. And, when you're dealing with a big time forwarder out there, they, in some cases, they might not have the time to kind of school you how to do those things or how to coach you through the whole process. And that's where we come in, and we take our time to mentor, you could say, and teach those customers on what are the best practices for that. That does two things. It educates them how to do it. They don't, and if let's say for some reason they have to do another shipment and they end up doing it with someone else, they know what the whole process is. They're not going to be look under, right?
Well, if they come back to you, it's got to make your life easier.
Much easier, right? Much easier, because that's where that's the whole point of what we do is develop that bonding relationship with our customers. We're not just their forwarder; we want to be their partner, and that's the way we envision that, and that's something that we push a lot to our customers, that we're not here for one or two shipments. We're here for a long haul to help them grow as time goes.
So tell me about your customers. Are they large and small? You mentioned if it's mom and pop, they might have to coach them through it, but what size are some of them, and what would be, this is our ideal? This is, put it in a box. We'd like more of these.
Well, our customers are small to medium size, but some of the big customers look for us because they know us from other companies, and they like working with us. But the optimal customer that we look for is medium to small size importers and exporters. Some of them, like Mauro was mentioning, are learning about exporting and some of the rules and regulations. And some of them already know them, and they know that we know, and they like working with us because we're gonna keep on making them compliant. Right? And that's some of the great one of those internal slogans that we have is to always be improving. Right? We talk about improving everything you do 1% a day. If you improve 1% a day, in a year, you'll have 365%. And you multiply it by all the people, and you're going to be awesome. And we've seen that happen with the example I gave you with the $5,000 to growing a big department. I think we've been doing that, and we're excited about that.
Have we talked about the book Traction before? Okay, no. After this show, I'll bring it up right now, okay. And I'll give you guys each a copy after the show. I'm just sitting here listening, saying that book is what they're describing. It's a entrepreneurial operating system. So how do you create the systems and processes, people oriented, but in a way that you're speaking the language here, that 1% better. I was just talking about this with Chrissy and Steve downstairs, and look, we have a lot of things that we've got to make better, but let's just do one thing, get that one thing a little bit better. And then once we're great at that, we'll do the next thing a little bit better. And by the time we get through a week of that and a month of that, look, we've covered a lot of ground here. And so we don't have to get overwhelmed with all of these 180 things that are in your head, and you're, falling asleep at night thinking about these things, but just pick one, get really good at it, move on to the next thing. It's a great book. I'll give you each a copy.
Excellent. Yeah. Awesome. And in our industry, we've seen a lot of, I can say that, a lot of crazy people yelling at you for making mistakes, when I started. And we have that philosophy that we never yell at anybody, because whatever you focus on, you'll continue doing, right? So if you say, why you do that? Well, why? Because, your internal dialogue is going to answer immediately. It has to do with neurolinguistics, right? It's going to come, well, if you have somebody present in you with like a bad teacher, say, because you're stupid. That's why you're doing that, because you're stupid, right? And we have a slogan that we say 100% integrity, accuracy, I'm sorry. 100% accuracy equals to 120% customer satisfaction, right? Because you have to make mistakes. If you yell at people when they make mistakes, they'll make even more. Yeah. They'll make more mistakes. It's a fact. So we try to guide them in a way that it's okay to make mistakes. We try to look at them that they don't make the mistakes, but it's after all, mistakes it's the base for success, right? What they say, success is a product of good judgment. Good judgment is a product of experience, and experience is a product of mistakes or errors, right? Yeah. So we try to keep our coaching very healthy and positive, right?
I think that's calling it coaching. I mean, I was just, as you're talking about yelling at somebody because they made a mistake and what the outcome would be there versus coaching them. And I mean, just like sports, when you see how do you motivate someone to not make that mistake again or become better, it depends on the time. There is a time and a place for, okay, we can't do that again. You screwed up, or it's breaking a value, you lied, whatever it is. But the rest of the time, I mean, anybody that's making a mistake isn't sitting there wishing they had done that, or correct. They want to do better as well. How do we all do better? That's good.
Yeah.
I think you kind of talked about it a little bit. What makes you unique? And it sounds like for some of these smaller mom and pop or smaller companies, the hands-on, the coaching, I'll take you through this so you understand and you don't have to just wing it, figure it out on your own and hope it works out. But are there many others that do what you do? And I mean, I guess they might say some of the same, we've got to get it right every time. But what makes you guys different from them?
Well, in some cases, we have customers that, they're under contracts, right? So when you're under a contract and you have a specific day of delivery, time frame, you name it, this year is not that many due to the whole pandemic going on. But when that normally happens, you have to be there on time, or they get dinged with penalties. And we're not talking about $200-300. We're talking about thousands of dollars, especially if it's government contracts. So when we're dealing with customers like that, that's where something that we mentioned was standard operating procedures. And most people say, well, every company has those. Yeah, but are you following them? The question is, are you following them? Because every account is unique. It's very unique in every way. So if you do not have specifics in there of timeframes, when are you picking up the freight? When it needs to, when does it need to be delivered? Do we have the time to get it there at a certain time? Those are the questions that you have to ask ahead of time. And the beauty of it is that when, with these customers that we're dealing with, they already know that. Right. So it's easier for us because we've been dealing with them for many years in the past. So they know that this is something normal for us to ask. And when they provide it, it just goes smoothly. And when there's adjustments, you could say on the on the process or something, then that's when we do adjustments on the standard operating procedures. We both sign off on them, and that makes it a little bit unique. You could say, because we're on the same page. We don't have that, he said, she said. We take that and eliminate it completely. And, so when customers sign off on that, this is what we have, right? If something comes up, then we'll adjust, as we go on. And it's more of a programming, our operations team and their, operating team as well, that communication is key. Everything has to be put in writing. It's not like he told me. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and to your question, we our process is very simple. We make it look easy, but it has its own caveat, because everything is in writing. Everything. Let's say if you have a company that manufactures telephones, we would have your process of how we pick up, deliver all your addresses, all your vendors. We have a copy of your invoice, your requirements, POs, part numbers, name of contacts, hours of operations of the different locations that you're dropping off. But we make it very simple. Our application, it's not like a 6-page application, and we check background on every. It's very simple. It's based on Dun & Bradstreet. We do it online. It's a 5-minute decision, and then if there's something we need to decide, it's just Mauro and myself, and that's it. I mean, we don't have to go ask the vice president of the Southwest to talk to the vice president of North America, and it's we make it very simple for our customers, and we have a clean operation.
I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough is the necessity to not just create these processes and systems in business, but to make them simple.
Right.
And whether it's for myself working in a company and needing to be able to follow the bouncing ball the same way every time, or confusing in the book Traction, there's 2 terms: proven processes and core processes. So front of the house and back of the house. If there's a stage and I see the actor acting, and I think, wow, they're just doing all this on their own. I don't see the pulleys going behind the scenes and all of the things that are happening behind the scenes that they don't need to. The viewer of this actor, doesn't need to know about all that stuff.
Exactly.
I just trust that it's all working smoothly. They've got their processes behind the house, figuring all that out. And so what I see is my experience. It's just simple. It just works every time. It's the same every time. And so I understand how to then experience, or what my expectations should be.
Yeah, that's where the whole, trusting your team comes in. They do their job. Everything's going to be smooth.
That's absolutely.
Yeah,
And having good principles, having weekly meetings where you communicate, give feedback, and go running through the right data, right? Because you could have a meeting and talk about, the weekend football games and stuff. But if you talk to the right data, how many quotes do we have? How many do we hit? How many do we miss? What is the problem? Is it our carriers? Is it, that they're benchmarking us? Is it, there's a lot of factors. And then, you start looking at your sales data and then your new accounts, your pipeline. And we share that with everybody so they can learn also. They can learn that we're looking at how we look at our accounts, right? How we're doing our pipeline. And we do that every week.
So I've heard a few things from you talking about 100% accuracy is 220% of customer satisfaction, and measuring data and having those conversations with the team and coaching, where I could see these being a part of this culture that's being developed in your company. Is there a way that you would describe this is what our company culture looks like, or is it more of those just little things as they come up, that this is how we do things here? This is how, if you behave in this way, that matches with our values. How would you describe your company culture?
Yeah, well, we have it written down. A culture is like, number one, customer satisfaction is very important for our culture. Human capital, that people are the most important thing. In some companies see people as a means to an end, right? To us, that's the most important thing. So everybody, it's happy working for us, that they grow, and that we give them the environment so they can grow, right? So we're all working so we can make the office bigger, and they have more responsibilities, or we can open another office and they're growing organically, right? We're not having to hire people and say, "Oh, I have a new boss. Great, come." Nobody likes that. Yeah. Saying nobody gets excited when somebody in the team grows up, right? And our integrity is very important for our culture, right? And like we said, take everything in the light way. And when it's stressful, we always make jokes, and we try to make the person who made a mistake, make light of it. Say, it's every day. I used to go home to my wife and say, "Oh, it's a bad day. We had a mistake." Now she asks me, "Well, it's a regular day in the logistics business, honey." So it's normal to have a lot of stuff. So we promote creativity and optimism, right? So that people find ways to ask the right question, right? So, and not like, "Why did this happen?" Well, like I mentioned before, because you're stupid, right? Your brain's going to answer that. But if you ask the right question, how can we fix this? Enjoy the process and get a good result. Your hard disk is going to go, and you're going to find the answer. You're going to find the answer sooner or later. But if you ask the right answer, right? And that's what we promote, to creativity and have optimism, right? That we're always going to go ahead, get ahead. It doesn't matter how bad things look, right? And I think it's better than having a negative outlook on things.
It has to be. It is. It feels better. It's tomorrow's going to happen either way, and so
exactly
take that into it and come running. So we have been through a interesting time over the last 6 months in the world. And has it been hard? I'm sure it's been hard some days, but how have you found ways to continue to have optimism and creativity? And has there been some negative repercussions that you've had to figure out over the last number of months with an early stage company going through the pandemic? What does that look like for you guys?
Well, on our side, when we first started, I actually would get a lot of feedback from customers, are you sure that that's something that you want to do? You want to go live, and especially with what's going on. And again, if you're not doing something you want to do, right? If you're not pushing forward it doesn't matter what's going on. As a matter of fact, I think we see this as a hurdle, right? And in our in the industry and in the business. And by us jumping this hurdle is just going to make us stronger. Right now, we're being very successful in what we're doing, and I can't imagine how much more successful we're going to be once this starts getting cleared. A little bit, down the line here. Some of the customers that are right now, you could say, on the standstill. Those are the big customers that are on standstill right now. And I just can't imagine once they start going live, which we're getting a little bit of a live, heartbeats going on right now with them. So once that starts jumping up, it's going to be crazy.
That's exciting.
It's exciting. It's exciting, and that's what makes us is that within the 4 months that we've been up and running, it's just making us better and better every single month, and it allows us to kind of put our word out there and promote ourselves a little bit more. So it's giving us a little bit of a little wiggle room, you could say, with the smaller little companies here and there that need the help.
Sure. Cool. Is there one thing that you could pinpoint and say, if this pandemic hadn't happened, we wouldn't have gotten this positive thing that's coming out of it?
I think this is, I don't know, how to say this, but I think if this wouldn't have happened, us being in business, it would have still happened. But would we be where we're at right now? We don't know. That's just a question mark, right? So I think, God does things for reasons, and this is one of them. It happened, and this is how it's, everything is lining up. And most people say, let's see when you see the light, at the end of the tunnel. We've been seeing that light for many years, since we wanted to do this business. Mm-hmm. And that's our main focus, is keep on moving forward and just make sure that we're keeping our customers happy with what we're doing.
Yeah, and the positive side about this, there's some government incentives that we wouldn't have otherwise,
right?
For small companies, right? Like 6 months without paying your loan and your principal and interest. That's a good help.
Yeah,
that's good help. And a lot of people have a different view at I guess at giving you a shot, right? You guys are struggling in the pandemic. I'll give you a shot. Let's see how you do it. That's all we need. Just one shot. Mm-hmm. Just one shot. That's all we need. And then they see that we're awesome in handling communications and shipments, and our team is very communicative and very professional, and they love us and they stay with us, right? But that's all we need. One shot.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, I wouldn't wish the pandemic, to have happened, and I think we have an interesting relationship with business in general too, where we get these stories of these overnight successes, and we don't hear for many of these stories the 10 years leading up to that led to this seemingly overnight success. And ask any of those people, would you trade any of those 10 years for that success? Would you go back and do anything differently? How would you know to do what made you successful if you hadn't experienced all of those things? And so I think, I guess one way to frame looking at this pandemic is, no, I don't wish it on anybody.
Right.
Having been through it, I've learned a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And I think we've become a better business because of it. I think we have learned how to rely on our team in a different way, on the fly, making quick decisions, trying to think about the broader community, all the companies that are a part of this. And it has been, in some ways, very positive. Well, I wish it would go away at the same time, but
it humbles you. It humbles you.
Yeah,
exactly.
What do you guys do for marketing, finding new customers? How do you get out there and tell your story?
Well, basically, we have a very simple plan for marketing. We have number one, we try to stay in touch with all the networking associations that touch our industries that we want to get involved, like the aerospace industry, high-tech industry, mining industry, automotive industry, maquila industry, like the border factories, and everything that has to do with logistics education, because you get employees and then you can get some leads out of customers, right? Some of the guys who graduated from there go and work for a manufacturer and say, hey, I remember that guy who was talking about communication, and then you start networking. And we also do social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, and we have our website. We build our website, and funny, we've gotten 2-3 customers out of there without
2-3 customers,
just the website working overnight.
And even customers right now, we have just one particular customer that has provided us three actual customers now. So it's word of mouth, and that's what what we're proud of is that the reason we're doing that is because we're doing an awesome job providing the service, right?
That's the mark of a good
exactly.
company.
So
Exactly.
and when they actually have something they encounter issues or anything, he's like he doesn't even hesitate. Hey, I got this guy, he could help you out, with this transportation. Doesn't matter if it's international, blah blah blah. And when every single time that we actually have that conference call with that customer, you could tell, that they're very like stressed out. They're tight, like they don't want to give too much information, like they've been through some issues, right? And by the time we hang up and we're done, they tend to be more at ease, like okay, let me the next shipment, let me run it with you and start doing the whole process with you guys and see how it is. Because again, the way we explain things, we simplify it. Making sure that let the transportation, let us do that for you. Don't worry about that. Let us do that. You take care of anything else you want to do. Don't be stressed out. And there's times that customers are like, no, I want to do it. I want to try it. And then they try that one shipment. And I'm like, no, you do it now. The next one you handle it. We've had that, so it's, again, it depends on customers and how they want to handle the first one. And then that's how it starts growing. It starts growing to the point where it's not just international transportation that we get. Then they start asking, hey, I have this domestic shipment. Can you guys do, overnights? Yeah, we do. Can you do a white glove service? Yes, we do. So everything we have, as service levels, they actually can use those, and they could, it helps them be successful, and it allows us to to promote ourselves, not just with them, but their friends, business partners, and many others.
I think you said something that really stuck with me, that I think about this all the time, and how companies think of themselves and market themselves. And you are a shipping logistics company, but what you talked about is really what you're able to give to that other person on the other end is peace of mind, is take a breath and just relax, because we got this. We got you covered. And whether it's, we sell square foots of space in a building. And so if I was always focused on each square foot, it'd be totally transactional, and we'd be in a race to the bottom on pricing of anyone else down the street from us. But if my mind is, how do I allow Geoz to be in their office doing what they love to do and are put here to do it well for others and to serve others, and it just happens to be on a number of square feet, it's so much more rewarding to do. It's so much more, how do you expand the value of that square foot is by allowing you to continue to do more with it. I love it.
That's what they say.
Price is only an issue in the absence of value.
Exactly.
And I always say that to customers, because they always say, well, yeah, but this, I'm getting this pricing. Well, at the end of the day, price is an issue in the absence of value. You want price, we could give you price. But at the end of the day, the service is not quite there, because we got to base the service on the price that you're getting, which means who are we utilizing to move this freight, right? We don't want to give your freight to a C carrier when we should be giving it to an A carrier just to save you $50. So and sometimes customers see that. They're like, you know what, I'd rather pay the additional because I know you guys are going to take care of it and all that. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we would bend backwards trying to negotiate certain pricing to accommodate them, but there's cases that you can't, and that's where the transparency comes in, where you say, well, I'm not your forwarder, I'm your business partner, I'm your second pair of eyes, I'm here to help you make things smoother. If there's an issue, I'll take care of that when it comes to the transportation side, and that's what they love.
So what does it look like in a year, 5 years, and as much as you could hope for, I guess, for us to look for? What's the vision like?
If everything goes as we planned, we're probably thinking of opening another office in October of 2021. Not this October. for us, it's strategic to have offices in areas that you have big ports, airports, like be Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, and then we'll go overseas, probably Europe, right, UK, France, and that's how this business grows. You have to have boots on the ground on important cities, right? And you go based on your customers, right? You have your customer and say, well, why don't you open it in the UK? I have a project going on there, and they kind of lead your growth. And that's why Mauro is saying being a partner to your customers is like learning their business. They start to open up more to you, and then you grow together. That's the beauty of it.
Sounds great.
Right.
So I've got a couple of questions that we always ask every guest. Jen, who's usually with me as well, don't have anything to do with anything, but they're your curiosity. We're tracking them, and I think they're interesting. So first question for each of you, what is your favorite book? And if it's different, what is a book you'd recommend?
Okay, well, on my side, I've actually read this book many times, which is The Power of Focus. That is just a book. I've actually read that 4 or 5 times, maybe, and most people will laugh at this, but some of you guys that have read this in the past, you might know why you say you might laugh. Is Who Moved My Cheese? That's an awesome book for me. Those are my 2 favorite books, and it just allows you to understand what is focus. Most people have different types of focus and how you could stay focused, right? But Who Moved My Cheese is don't get comfortable. Everything that you do in life is going to be the same, and all that. If you allow your life to be the same every single day, it's going to stay the same. So being uncomfortable and staying uncomfortable is key to becoming successful. All right.
I've said, I don't know how many times over the last 6 months, you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because whether you are seeking out growth or it's happening to you, you just got to get comfortable with it, because otherwise you're going to be reacting to it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's one of the harder things to do sometimes is, especially if it seems like it's happening to you. I'm not going out to go to school or educate myself or whatever. It's something's happening, the pandemic or whatever it is. But you know what? I'm just going to be as comfortable as I can with this and roll with the punches and be optimistic and show up and be stronger another day. I think that's wise. Yeah.
Mine is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And another one that I really like is Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. Right. And I was going to say another one, but it has nothing to do with business. So
go for it. Go with it.
The Prophet.
The Prophet.
The Prophet.
The Prophet is a good book.
Like I said, part of this is just a wicked curiosity that I have of great books. So keeping a list. So the second question is Jen's question. I'm asking on her behalf. Tell me something about each of you that people might be surprised to know or don't typically know.
That's a good one. What would it be in my?
I don't know that I ruined my culinary experience by going to culinary school.
Oh,
so every time you go to a restaurant, you find out what they're doing right or wrong. I took a break for 6 months and I went to culinary school here in Scottsdale, and that's interesting.
That is very interesting. I have a good friend who went to culinary school in Scottsdale, and he's a chef now at a restaurant called Kai in town. And it's fascinating to me to watch what he makes at home versus what he makes, for other people, and that whole process. And it's all just ones and zeros if you're doing it for other people and doing
exactly.
Yeah.
As for me, I would say more of a challenge. I think it comes more from being into sports, right? When someone says, "No, you're not going to be able to do that," it kind of lights a fire, like, "Oh, really? All right." That's it. And that's the thing, is that you always put a time frame. When people say something like that, put a time frame of when your goal is to accomplish that. And I've impressed a lot of people, even family, direct family to mine, to me, that they think that it's certain things it's impossible, and it turns out, it is possible. It is possible. A good example is my mother. My mother moved from California, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, she was staying at my brother's house. She just, she is the type of person that she'd rather be living by herself, right? So I ended up, she basically one day told me, you know what, I just need a house. I can't, I just think I'm overstepping here with your brother. But I said, all right, Mom, give me 3 months, 4 months, I'll get you a house. And 3 months later, she had her house, so she's staying close to me, and it just gives me that satisfaction that if something goes on, she's very close to me. So in the end of the day, I've been her retirement, and that gives me that personal pleasure.
That's powerful. It's got to serve you well in all aspects of life too. I love when people tell me no.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I like challenges.
I just watch out. Yeah.
When I was before college, I went to summer school in Tucson, and my English teacher said, "You're not ready for college English. You can't speak well. You can't write well." Oh yeah. Oh, I'll go. I'll go. I don't care. And I went to people laughed at me in the first few semesters, but I think I got a little handle of what the English language is.
It's I've gotten bitten by it a couple of times, but it's learning experiences. But yeah, sure, I'll make that happen.
Yeah.
So, Gustavo and Mauro, can you please tell anyone listening how they could find you online, find out more about Geoz?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can find us at www.geozglobal.com. That's our website. We're also on Instagram with Geoz Global. That's our page. LinkedIn as well as Geoz Global. And we're here. We're here in Tempe. And if they want to go ahead and reach out to us, phone number is 480-608-4430.
Great. Mm-hmm. And here at Max 6, that's
the awesome part about it.
So thank you, Mauro and Gustavo, for being on the show today. It was a great conversation. And until next time, thank you for being an awesome part of the community.
Thank you, Cal. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Max 6 Community Connection radio show and podcast with your hosts, Jennifer Burwell and Kyle McIntosh. We are off to continue building better communities where people and businesses thrive and telling the stories of capitalism as a force for good through the businesses that we serve. To be a part of the conversation, join us for a tour of the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona, or find us at max6.com.